All right. Welcome to Open House this virtual night. I really appreciate you clicking on this video. If you're looking for Mr. Langevin's Journalism 1 class, you are in the right spot. That's me. My name is Mr. Langevin. I am you or your student's Journalism 1 teacher. I'm really excited to be here with you tonight. We're going to go over our basic expectations about how our class runs, what the expectations are in terms of our policies, our grades, all that jazz. But of course, if you have any questions, my email will be at the end of this video. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be happy to set you up with whatever answer I can give you. Again, I just want to express my gratitude for you showing up and wanting to learn more about your students today. I really appreciate that. All right, well, let's hop in. I wanted to give you a little bit of a taste about what our students go through our first day. And so this is sort of my philosophy of teaching, that the people who you've never met thought it was worthwhile. That's what I tell my students. The people that you've never met thought it was worthwhile to give their money to you through taxes, through our society, making sure that our labs, that our school, that my salary, that our resources are all paid for because they wanted to invest in their education, that this class is a gift to us, right? That this is part of all of our space. And so this is not I tell them they're not walking into my classroom. They're really walking into their classroom, that this is our learning environment together, that we're both learning as we go through this process. And that's fundamentally true, regardless of what subject we're in. And so I wanted to show that to you all about where I come from in this way. I'm going to show you, just kind of breeze by some of our rules here. One of our main rules is, of course, respecting the educational process, that they may not be good at something, and that's A-okay. That being bad at something is a tremendous gift, right? We talk about how wonderful it is to not have any expectations that you know anything. There's no expectation of that when you're starting, especially a class like Journalism 1, where you're not expected to know anything. This is a 101 class, and so respect that process. Be okay with not knowing. That's good. We also talk about be extraordinarily good to the people and the environment and you. That sometimes I feel like it's always easy to say, love your neighbor, but it's also important to love yourself, right? You are your neighbor. So make sure that you are being kind to yourself in that way. If you don't know, ask. We don't like liars in class, right? We want to make sure that people are being honest and forthright, and that same way comes with if you don't know something, ask. Feel free to talk to people. People want to help you out. And then lastly here, of course, be here. Right? Our students are expected that they put their phones away when they come into class, unless that we're actively doing something with our phones, that we should be focused in on what we're doing. Okay. I also want to go over another important rule for us in this class. We have absolutely no tolerance for any type of racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, or any other hate speech in class. This will be a safe place for students to be themselves. That's self-explanatory and shouldn't need to be stated, but language does matter, okay? I come from an English background. Words matter. How we use our words matter. And so in this class, words are taken very seriously. All right, so grading policy, let's hop in here. So grading policy is, we work on a normal A to F scale here. 80% of their grade comes from assignments, 20% comes from exams. That's a standard policy across Seminole County. Our exam is going to be once a quarter. Our first one is going to be vocabulary quizzes. Their last one is going to end up being a final project where they're going to be submitting their sort of creative portfolio from their work this year in journalism. And then, but my main point of talking about this slide is that grade discussions for us always start with our students, right? There are going to be times when I'm sure, as a parent, that there are going to be questions about grades. Why did my student receive this score? They're confused, or they didn't turn in this assignment, or there was a problem at home. What I want to make sure is that all the grade discussions begin with our students, right? It's going to be their name on their transcript. It's going to be their name as they head off to college or head off to their next adventure, educational adventure. And so it's super important to me that we begin that discussion with them first, and then we can kind of move on, and you and I can have those discussions as we go throughout the year. The next thing I'm going to talk about is that all grades are temporary. Okay, I'm not someone who, once they put in a grade, that's the grade. My assignments are always due at 11:59 p.m. on the due date. That's never expected that they finish it, like they work until midnight to do it. All the work that we have in this class is not for homework. Okay, we don't have any homework in this room. All this stuff is done in class and should be done in class. If students are working appropriately and on task, then they should be finishing all of what they need to be doing in class. However, we know how students work. We know that sometimes things get caught up. If that happens, that's A-okay, but that is then for homework. If students don't turn in something at 11:59 on the due date, that grade turns into a 0. That grade's a 0 until I have time to grade it. what we say is that on-time work always goes in first, and so once we kind of get around to it, we put on those grades. My goal is always within 2 weeks of the assignment, but that means a 0 may last in the grade book for about 2 weeks of an assignment that was turned in late. We do this to make sure that students have appropriate levels of responsibility for their grades in the class, and also that students make sure that they can understand that school has to come first, right? We know sports come, we know these other things get in there, which is important, life happens, but we want to make sure that students' grades are first there, okay? So please make sure that we're getting work done on time, and if we do, we'll be pretty much all set. All right, so what goes with kind of our rules is the ABCs of 523. We always talk about always be creating. We want them to write pointlessly, take too many photos, intentionally daydream, because what happens in the lab is a direct result of what happens outside of the lab. And what we mean by that is getting our students into a headspace where they're interested in life, they're curious, because the key to journalism, what we've always talked about, is I think the cure to fake news is curiosity. The cure for all of that stuff is to be curious about the world around you and to be faithfully curious about that. And so we teach them, be curious about the world around you, engage in it. It's an interesting place. You get one shot at this, so let's do it. We also, so mandatory supplies, make sure students, if they have a smartphone, bring it to class, have it available for them. I make the joke that, don't do anything dumb that gets you grounded, is one of the rules for class, because you have to use your phone for class. If you don't have it, it does get a lot more difficult. And so they know that their phone, if they have one, is their responsibility, that they ought to take it carefully, and they got to make sure that they're using it well, and above board, so that they don't get in trouble at home. And so they know that, but just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page on that. They need to use that smartphone for class. That's a super important tool for them. And it's an important tool nowadays in journalism as well. We always want them to have a notebook and paper with them just in case. And we always say, use a pen. Erasing mistakes is natural. Our society teaches us that our mistakes are something to be ashamed of, so we should erase them or cross them out. But honestly, that's a really bad thing to learn. Our mistakes are our best teachers. We talk about that all the time in class, that our mistakes are our best teachers. And so we try to encourage them to use pens. Their paper should look messy. That's okay. That's how life is. And everyone kind of should understand that. So, a couple things. I added that rule in there at the bottom, but just make sure that students are paying attention in class. They're asking questions. They kind of know what's going on. They drop the preconceptions at the door. We're going to be talking about a lot of politics this year. I mean, that's part of journalism. We know that. News is, it's not predominantly politics, but we do talk about it, and so we want to make sure that students feel respectful of each other and that they are respectful of each other's ideas. We also talk about documenting everything, right? That journalism is only as good as the events that people are going to and the people they're talking to, and so it's important that we talk to people widely and that we go to cool things, and we try to live our lives in a way that are interesting, that other people would care about. Okay. So overview of the year, we talk about life documenting, we talk about photojournalism to start with, and we talk about why is journalism even a thing, why is it important, where to go for good journalism, what that means. We talk about interviewing and writing. We get into InDesign and yearbook. We actually make a yearbook spread together. We talk more about photojournalism. We talk about video production. We talk about podcasting. We talk about design and artistic expression within the field of journalism. And honestly, we spend most of our time practicing. Our students work really hard in this class. They have a blast because they get a lot of freedom and a lot of time to be curious. But they work really hard. It's a hard class, but it does count for the fine arts credit. So it's a good mix of both there. So, homework policy for Photo 1 and journalism. Once you've submitted those work from the class, you really don't have any homework, which is great about this class. All work is pretty much done in class during class hours. All work must be submitted through eCampus, though. That's one thing that I hold, fast on. Students need to be submitting their work through the digital portals that we have available for them. That's tremendously important. That keeps my life organized. It keeps their life organized. There are no exceptions. You can't just show me it on your phone or show me it printed out. You have to submit it. The last thing, and this is a big deal, is all grading is temporary in my class, like we talked about earlier. A 0 is placed in the grade book as a reminder for students to turn it in. Once it's submitted, really once it's graded on my end, it'll be changed for them. So no 0s will be assigned for work completed on time. If everything is according to plan, students will never receive a 0. But if students do get a 0, it's because they've not submitted it on time. They may have still submitted it, so it's important they check eCampus. But no 0s will be given for work completed as intended, right? And so please make sure that they kind of follow through with that. Lastly here, please make sure the students are downloading Adobe Creative Cloud at home. If they have a computer they can access this on, make sure to do it. InDesign is what we use for our design. That's how New York Times is printed. That's how Wall Street Journal, that's how Time Magazine, that's how GQ, that's how all of our sort of big magazines of the world get printed, are through InDesign. Lightroom is our photo, and Photoshop's obviously for photo as well. And Audition is actually our podcasting app that we use, and that's part of the Adobe Creative Cloud. This is a $600 a year software that students are provided for free. So we ask that you download it and to make good use of it. And lastly, like I said, here's my contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as possible. I have a family. I make sure that my weekends are my own weekends, and that's their time with me. And so I don't respond to emails over the weekend. That's a hard and fast rule that I follow. However, please know Monday you are on my to-do list. I promise you'll get a response back. I care about you and I care about our correspondence. That's my email. Please make sure to get to me if you have any questions. Again, thank you so much for your time this evening. I know that there's a lot of stuff going on, and so I'm grateful you spent this time to learn more about your students' education. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and as always, go Lions.